Welcome to today's PAWSCAST.
Welcome to another PAWSCAST, broadcasted live from Frostburg State University. I'm Don Swogger, Director of the Safe Office, and welcome. We're so glad that you tuned in today. I'm super excited to be talking about campus safety with one of our very own MJ Parsons. MJ is a graduate of Slippery Rock University with a degree in safety and environmental management and sustainability. He's worked about 15 years in the corporate world, and he's been with us here at the university for 5 years, and he is our Director of Environmental Management and Sustainability. MJ, welcome to the show. So glad to see you, and welcome aboard.
Yeah, thanks, Don. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I guess I'd like to start off with asking you about, Frostburg State University. I have worked here for a couple of decades now, and I run into parents, and they're always asking me, hey, is Frostburg a safe place? I'm sending my son or sending my daughter to the university. I want to make sure that they're going to be okay. How would you address that to really anybody? What's the climate at Frostburg State? Is it a safe university?
Yeah, and I haven't been in higher education quite the amount of time that you have, but I think that it is. This is my first go in higher education, and just very exciting is what college campuses, I think, really bring. What we're looking to do is provide as safe of a workplace as possible for our students to enhance their learning experience. We do have incidents that occur from time to time, but we are committed. We do have a lot of people doing a lot of work to make the campus as safe as we possibly can.
Great. I think that's good to know, and I think that I'm a parent, of two boys. I think that it's important. It's our job to protect them,
absolutely,
keep them safe.
Absolutely.
And so, it's nice to know, and of course, working here, I know as an employee, I feel safe. I think that we have some good people around us, and the people around us, I have found over the years, I know with our university police department, they're about prevention. I think that they would rather prevent problems from occurring rather than, reacting to them.
Yeah, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but a lot of the things that the university police department are working on locally are extremely beneficial towards health and safety of the campus, and I'm sure we'll touch on that going forward.
Yeah, it's interesting because, there's sometimes myths, about university police, thinking that, well, they're just like safety officers or, maybe security people or something of that nature. But our men and women that work here at the university, they've gone through the academy, they're credentialed and credible and do a really good job for us. And speaking of that, how's campus patrolled? And are police available, for students?
Yeah, so the university police is a 24/7, 365 function. Campus is patrolled, all day, every day. We have about 17 or 18 police officers. I'm not exactly sure of the number, but what I would recommend to folks as well is not only if you have a question about whether you think a crime could potentially have been committed, there's a lot of other resources that our university police officer, offers to students and faculty and staff. And if there's ever a question or anything you're unsure of, again, the benefit to having them here is they're here 24/7. And you talked about training a little bit, and I would hazard a guess to say that Frostburg State University Police may be one of the better trained police forces, especially locally, and I'll tell you why. There's a lot of work going on with developing relationships with external agencies. There's a lot of active shooter presentations going on. There's a lot of active shooter simulations. So unfortunately, we do have, violent workplace events that unfortunately happen on college campuses. We are making a commitment to do everything we can to be as preventative as we can, but in the event that we do have a situation, that we're also able to respond as well.
I think that's a good lead into my next question, and that's our emergency alert system. Can you kind of talk about that? I mean, I think that's crucial. We hear about other universities and some of the things that they may or may not, have in place. I think of like our blue light system and our Berg alert system. So can you kind of talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so everyone wants to know in real time, and we do have an electronic notification system, which is what you talked about, which is the Berg system, or which is an app. that will tell people to avoid a certain area for whatever reason. There may be some kind of criminal activity or some kind of, secondary emergency that we want to let people know. This day and age, I think when the blue lights were coming around, it was before most people had cell phones. So what the blue light emergency notification system is they're emergency notification phones that are strategically placed around campus. In the event that you're in a certain area and wouldn't happen to have your cell phone, you experience any kind of emergency, anything of that nature, you pick up the phone, it automatically dials out to an emergency response function, and you can get taken care of. I'm not sure the number, but I know we have a pretty good coverage, pretty good footprint on campus.
Do you know anything about with Berg Alert? Do parents have access to that?
I believe that they do, yes. There is an app that you can sign up for on the University Police website, an account that you can create. And sometimes parents like to understand and know what's going on as well, because sometimes the students aren't as engaged with some of that stuff as the parents are. Yeah. But yes, that is an option that's available to the parents as well. Yeah,
because I think that I a couple years back had a conversation with a student, and he was kind of a little disturbed at the fact that his mom, knew absolutely everything that was going on. And I tried to kind of, relax him a little bit and say, yeah, she just loves you. She's concerned about you. And of course, some parents, tend to maybe hover a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Too much. But really, in the day and age that we live in, I don't know if there's such a thing anymore. Because we live in such a fragile, broken society with so much going on. I think that communication is vital and so important. So that I'm a preventionist. So if we can prevent it from happening, and then secondly, if something, God forbid, happens, then we have the right tools in place that we can do something that's effective and can save lives.
Absolutely, yeah. And I'm sure they're not the only parent there. The student has had an issue with their parents knowing more information than they do.
Yeah, absolutely. So what safety programs exist for students?
So we do a lot of work, obviously, with University Police, which we alluded to earlier. Student Government Association, worked closely with them. They have monthly meetings. They'll do safety walks. We encourage students to get a part of that, become a part of that. Our Residence Life Department does a lot of health and safety training before the semester. And I always tell people, if there is anything in particular or something that we don't offer you're unaware of, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm found in the directory as well. And even if it doesn't have to do with health and safety of the environment, I'll do anything I can help, what I can to help people out as well.
That's great, and I can vouch for you. That's so true because a couple of years ago, if you remember, I contacted your office, and one of my female students, had some concerns, about lighting on campus, and you were really instrumental in actually walking around campus, with that particular group of students that had interest in evening safety, and lighting. And I know that really meant the world to that particular female student. What I called like a lighting audit, so to speak. But I really believe that, and she's still here today as a senior, but I think that's due to you. You really retained that particular student because she was comforted in the fact that you answered her questions. She learned a little bit more about campus safety, and when you said that you were going to do something about it, in other words, get those lights turned on, you kept your word. I appreciate that, as a colleague, and I know that that particular student really appreciated that as well.
Yeah.
So
I appreciate that.
Thanks.
Well, you spoke to communication earlier, and I think that there are certain times that even if we can't do something to completely resolve the issue, we're providing feedback and a reason and follow-up as to why we can't. But no, I really appreciate you telling that story. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So the SAFE office, the University Counseling Center, and others really on campus provide mental health services. What kind of programs or services does your office have to support students who may be experiencing some mental health issues?
Yeah, we just have a really close relationship with our student CAP service. And again, you talked about earlier, and I think the benefit to the police as well is, sometimes mental health issues and things like that, there is no clock. There isn't a certain time when they rear their head or anything like that. But We do have the police that are available 24/7, 365 again to provide that support. We do have 24/7 call outs for counselors. So I would say, just the relationship that we have with our CAPS department, our willingness or our availability to be there for the students all the time is really, something that we're proud of, and something I think that, I don't know if students are aware of that, maybe not all students are aware of that, but again, if there are any issues, the police department is available 24/7 to address those.
Yeah, I think that I look back on my tenure here at the university, traveling with students at national conferences. I remember one incident in particular where I had a student that was having some mental health issues, so to speak, and I tried to talk to her a little bit, but I sensed that she needed a little bit more. So I called campus police because it was about 11:30 in the evening, and they were able to get a hold of one of our campus counselors that were on duty that night. She was able to talk to the student and so forth, get the student that she needed some help. The student was able to stay there, I think it was in St. Louis at the time, and be able to really enjoy the rest of the conference. So I think that it's really important that the university has these things in place. And again, talking about parents early on in the PAWSCAST, I think it's a comfort to them to know that if their student is experiencing a mental health crisis at any time, there's someone on campus that can be addressed with.
Yeah, and I think sometimes people forget. I mean, it's tough to be a student. And I've just recently started taking my class, or retaking classes myself, and it's just, you kind of forget what it's like, the rigors of being a student. Yeah. And coming back and kind of coming full circle, I guess you could say, in the last 15 years, you kind of understand what some students could potentially be going through. And again, we're very happy and proud to advertise those services, and we have had some success, as you mentioned there. But again, you can't reiterate enough. Please, if you are having any kind of issue, make sure you talk about it. Make sure you communicate. Even if you're not sure who to talk to specifically, the university police can be a very valuable resource for them.
Excellent. We just ended last week nationally educating students about hazing. It was National Hazing Week, and prevention, I should say. And so, can you talk a little bit about, hazing at FSU? Is it an issue? What are some students, what can they do about that particular issue? Because really, we've heard the horror stories, across the country, and students experiencing horrible consequences as a result, unfortunately, death in some situations. And not only that, but students that are participating in it and end up paying, consequences of being imprisoned and so forth. So can you talk a little bit again about the climate as it relates to hazing here at the university?
Yeah, I haven't been aware of too many hazing incidents. I wouldn't categorize hazing as a problem here. Hazing has no place in the college environment. And again, as we talked about earlier, what we're looking to do is provide the greatest educational, personal, it's a great time, in a young kid's age, the college experience. So I don't think hazing has been a problem here with us, but that doesn't mean that we're completely immune from it as well. And you want to keep going back on the thread of communication. If there is something going on, you can't do something about something you're unaware of. So again, if there are incidents like that, they need to be elevated. And again, if it's not a university police issue or it's not this issue, at least we can, address it, point them in the right direction, and hopefully get it resolved. But no, I don't think hazing has been an issue here. And like I said earlier, hazing is one of those things, I don't know where it ever originated from. But again, in the college environment, there's just really no place for it.
I think that Greeks get a bad rap sometimes. We have Greek Life on campus. I know the director of Greek Life. I've worked with her for several decades now. She does great work, with our fraternities and sororities. But a lot of times they kind of get the blame, for, all the hazing that happens on a college campus. But I really think that it can happen anywhere, with any particular group of people, I remember, playing football, and, as a rookie, there was always that initiation, and so forth. I learned that if you could just cooperate a little bit and did something silly, that you can kind of avoid further consequences. But I think that, one incident is too many, and I'm really glad for people like yourself, that work with our office, the Safe Office on campus, and Greek Life, and other organizations that, one is too many, and, that our students need to be in an environment that they feel safe and a sense of belonging.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are some campus safety tips students should be made aware of? Whether you're going to school for the first time, and if you look into the camera and let future students know, hey, you're going to college campus, kind of keep these things in the back of your head as you go away.
Yeah, I just think just listening to the rules that are already out there. And again, I was a different person at age 18 than I am today. But one of the biggest issues that we have from a security standpoint is unopened doors. Whether that be your dorm room, whether that be a door to a dormitory, we don't want unauthorized individuals to enter a space. And sometimes I think people don't mean a lot of harm by it. But I would say that's probably the biggest thing that we encounter is just spaces that are left unopened. You have, obviously you have situations like theft that can occur, but I think more importantly is you allow access to a building that otherwise is meant to be secure. So probably the biggest thing that I think that we deal with in terms of newer college students is just not securing, whether it be the room or a door to a residence hall or anything like that.
Oh, good. What about the relationship with the City of Frostburg Police Department and our own police department on campus? Do they have a good relationship? Do they work well together? Are there times when the university police can kind of partner with city police and vice versa? Yeah,
and I will tell you, I think for all agencies, staffing has been an issue. So they have what they call concurrent jurisdiction. So Frostburg State University Police has jurisdiction in the city of Frostburg. The city of Frostburg has jurisdiction at Frostburg State University. So there are times, and it doesn't happen all the time or frequently, but you may see Frostburg City Police on Frostburg State University's campus, and whether they just need support, backup on a certain call or whatever the case may be. But yeah, they do have concurrent jurisdiction. They work very closely together, and it really helps both the university and the city in terms of staffing. And again, I think we're not the only police force that has been hampered by the ability to staff their workforce. But
so you talked about Frostburg being a relatively safe place, and that's good news for us that work here and learn here. God forbid, what if something should happen? How do students report it?
Well, and again, as we talked about earlier, even if you're unsure of whether a crime is committed, the university police are a resource that are here 24/7, 365. Whatever time of day it is, they have dispatchers that are on the ready at all times. Their staff, they have multiple supervisors on every shift, or one supervisor, I should say, and multiple patrol officers on each shift. But yeah, they're open 24/7, 365. If there are any questions or anything like that, or you're really unsure, hey, I don't know if a crime was committed against me, or hey, I'm really not sure what exactly this situation is, please don't hesitate to reach out. And again, they don't deal with strictly crimes per se, and there's a lot of other services that they offer. And I would just recommend, if there is, a period of uncertainty or someone doesn't quite know what's going on, that they have a resource that's available regardless of day and regardless of time.
Great. So how could students get involved with campus safety initiatives? Say there may be some students out there that are really gung-ho about the issue and they want to get involved. What can they do? I
would just say reach out. And again, we talked about the university police does a lot of cool, super unique things that they involve students. We have representation from SGA. We have our residence life department. Again, please just shoot an email to myself if anyone has any questions or anything. A lot of what I deal with, is kind of faculty and staff related. I don't work hand in hand with students all the time. But when I do, I'll take part in things like the SGA safety walks and and working with Residence Life to deliver trainings and things like that. We do the emergency response drills and things like that. But, again, if there are any, if anybody has any initiative or any, desire to be a part of any of those things, just don't hesitate to reach out, and whether it be an RA, someone that represents the SGA, the University Police, myself, that's the benefit to Frostburg as well. There are a lot of good people out here that are willing to help. So again, don't hesitate to reach out. It would be my recommendation.
Now, I know you don't work for the University Police Department per se, but I'm going to ask the question anyhow. If you can't answer it, that's no problem, because we're hoping to get the University Police Department here for a PAWSCAST eventually. But so I remember a couple of years back, at least probably a decade now, there was students that were really interested in ride-alongs, to kind of learn about the campus culture and, do some work in their respective disciplines. Do you know, do those ride-alongs still exist today?
Yeah, there's an intern program that the University Police runs with the Technical Center and local high school students that wish to be police officers or pursue a role in law enforcement. I'm not sure if, I don't see why a college student wouldn't be able to do things like that. But yeah, we do have a system currently in place for high school students. I wasn't here 10 years ago, so I can't speak to, what that program looked like. But yeah, I mean, if there's any interest in that, again, this is higher education. A lot of these students might be in a law enforcement field.
Sure.
So what better opportunity to learn more about what you could potentially be doing for the rest of your life than, doing the job or shadowing the job.
Absolutely. And I know that you're working on your graduate degree here at the university. Would you be willing to take on an intern, that may be working in the similar discipline? Yeah,
absolutely. And I kind of laugh when you say that, but again, it's a little bit different the second time around, and something, I feel better prepared having spent a couple of years in the workforce. But again, it makes you realize, a lot of the challenges that our students really have to go through. But yeah, absolutely. I don't know how much I would, I really know, or if I'd be the best resource on some things, but the ability to give back, and there are students that I've worked with special projects on. I mean, we've had students doing building mapping, for example, where they would use GIS software, identify emergency evacuation points, any piece of emergency equipment that the fire department could log into an app. Yeah. Very quickly, they get here, they understand where things are, and it just expedites the emergency response process. But yeah, I mean, like I said, health and safety is one of those fields that it's a little bit atypical. It's not one of your normal college programs. But it's one of those things that I've really grown to be passionate about it, just because of the difference that you can make.
Excellent. So, are there any upgrades or plans, for upcoming, safety infrastructure on campus, such as lighting cameras, other types of emergency systems or services? Yeah,
and we've done different assessments, in collaboration with the University Police. We did, and I don't know the exact number of cameras that we've got, but we've just recently installed several hundred additional cameras, which really increases our footprint. And I know sometimes cameras are looked at as a negative thing, and you're kind of getting back, or looking at what happened on the back end, but we've used them a lot for proactive approaches as well. Lighting and things like that, we have a couple proposals out there that we've looked at. There's a couple of areas that are problematic more so than others. So we haven't quite gotten to the point with the lighting yet, but again, we're always looking to improve, and I think the investment, and I think the cameras came from a grant, but again, anytime you have the ability to add several hundred cameras to your university, I think that in itself inherently kind of makes your campus more safer.
Yeah, absolutely. So I remember prior to your time here, there was a safety committee on campus. Does that committee still exist? Do you have a safety committee that you kind of get together with a group of people from time to time?
Yeah, and this is what I always tell everyone as well, is there are so many different policies and procedures that speak to this is what your composition of your safety committee has. So we have a university safety committee that is comprised with faculty, staff, not students. But what I always tell people is if there is a need to talk about safety and there is not already a meeting that is set up, please reach out, and whether it's monthly, whether it's quarterly, whatever frequency we see fit, I don't mind putting another meeting on the calendar if there are things that people need to know and be aware of that they don't currently understand now. But, that's my long-winded version. But yeah, and I say all that to say, if there isn't, a committee per se that's already set up, I have no problem with getting the right individuals together. And again, I think what it goes back to is all about making sure concerns are addressed. And the more people, if there are people with concerns, we want to hear from them. And again, I think it's just back to that communication piece. And in the absence of a meeting, there are other ways, email, phone calls, and things like that we can address these concerns as well.
So what about our off-campus students? They come on campus, they take classes, and then they're pretty much dart back to their apartments. Are there some things in place, for the off-campus student, because they're just as important as our students that are on campus. They tend to, at least it appears that sometimes they feel like they don't get messages like the students that are on campus.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think it goes back to what you talked about earlier with the technology that we currently utilize. We have a very great communication department as well. We try to get on the front end of a lot of that stuff. Take an example like inclement weather, for example. There's going to be someone here at all times that's going to be able to give us a call or make a call. Sometimes, the geographic footprint at which the students, faculty, and staff come from, some people have pretty decent sized commutes, and we do everything we can to try to communicate it on the front end as best as possible. But there are a lot of different outlets, whether it's the app or whether it's the website or whether it's a radio station or whether it's a newscast or whatever the case may be. There are multiple avenues at which things are communicated with students that they can follow. Okay,
so is there anything else that you'd like to tell our PAWSCAST audience about campus safety? Anything that I missed?
Well, no. And again, I can't stress communication enough. And there are things that people here are just unfamiliar with. I've always said, especially in terms of health and safety too, the more eyes you get on something, the better off you're going to be. You're going to look at something a little bit differently than I am. The next person's going to look at something a little bit differently than you and I would. And I think the beauty of that is the ability to discover things that you and I may walk by every day and never pay any mind to or any attention to. But just communication, is paramount. We try to do as good of a job as we can here. Unfortunately, there are circumstances where we don't always get ahead of it and things like that, but we're always looking to improve. And if people do have suggestions or anything like that, we're welcome to hear the feedback from those.
And how do they get a hold of you?
Please call me, email me. My office number is 301-687-3976. Located in the physical plant building. And the benefit of that as well, too, is a lot of things, especially from a health and safety standpoint, that need corrected. Our physical plant has a lot of, a hand in correcting those things as well. Please email me. I'm very adamant on getting back to whether it be a question or whatever the case may be, and I try to respond if I'm at work within 24 hours. So yeah, especially if it's pressing as well. I mean, anything that needs immediate attention, please don't hesitate to bring that forward either.
Very good. Well, listen, MJ, thanks for coming by the studio. It was great seeing you again, and really thanks for what you do to keep our campus safe.
Appreciate it, Don.
Well, that's another PAWSCAST wrap. I'm Don Swogger, and remember, healthy choices equal healthy lives. See you next time.
Thank you for being a part of our PAWSCAST. This health and wellness podcast is brought to you by the Prevention Center and Peer Education Network at Frostburg State University. If you would like more information about our programs, visit us in Pullen Hall, room 109, or call us at 301-687-4761. Or you can always send us an email at safeoffice@frostburg.edu. Remember to watch our other episodes and stay tuned throughout the semester. Thank you.